First contact, the discovery. In the year 2185, humanity had finally achieved its long-held dream of interstellar colonization. The planet Nova Terra, orbiting a distant star in the Goldilocks zone, became the first human settlement beyond our solar system. As the colony ship Horizon breached the planet's atmosphere, Captain Sarah Chen felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. This was the culmination of decades of planning and preparation, and the weight of humanity's future rested on her shoulders. The landing was smooth, and as the ship's massive doors opened, the colonists got their first breath of alien air. It was sweet and crisp, filled with the promise of a new beginning. Dr. Ethan Rodriguez, the lead xenobiologist, was the first to step onto the red soil of Nova Terra. He knelt down, scooping up a handful of dirt and letting it sift through his fingers. "It's perfect," he whispered, his eyes glistening with tears of joy. "We did it. We're home." Over the next few months, the colony grew rapidly. Prefabricated structures sprouted like metallic flowers across the landscape, and the first crops began to take root in the alien soil. Captain Chen oversaw the operations with a steady hand, ensuring that every aspect of the colony's growth adhered to the strict protocols designed to minimize their impact on the planet's ecosystem. Dr. Rodriguez and his team worked tirelessly, cataloging the planet's flora and fauna. The life on Nova Terra was unlike anything they had ever seen: plants that seemed to glow in the dark, creatures that defied classification. But it was all undeniably alive and strangely familiar in its alienness. As the colony approached its first anniversary, an unexpected discovery shook the foundations of their new world. Maria Vasquez, a young geologist, stumbled upon something buried deep in a nearby mountain range. At first, she thought it was just an unusual rock formation, but as she dug deeper, she realized it was something far more significant. "Captain Chen." Maria's voice crackled over the comm system, breathless with excitement. "You need to see this. It's not natural, and it's definitely not ours." Within hours, a team led by Captain Chen and Dr. Rodriguez arrived at the site. What they found left them speechless. A massive structure, clearly artificial, protruded from the mountainside. Its surface was smooth and iridescent, shifting colors as they watched. "This changes everything," Dr. Rodriguez murmured, running his hand along the strange material. "We're not alone out here." Captain Chen nodded, her mind racing with the implications. "We need to approach this carefully, set up a perimeter and begin scans. I want to know everything about this structure before we go any further." For weeks, the colony's best minds worked around the clock to unravel the mysteries of the artifact. They discovered that it was emitting a faint signal, pulsing in a regular pattern that couldn't be natural. Dr. Rodriguez hypothesized that it might be a beacon of some kind, perhaps left behind by the planet's original inhabitants. As they delved deeper into their research, the artifact suddenly came to life. The iridescent surface began to pulse with an inner light, and the signal it was emitting grew stronger. Captain Chen ordered the immediate evacuation of the site, fearing some kind of defense mechanism. But instead of danger, they received a message. A holographic image flickered to life above the artifact, revealing a being unlike anything they had ever seen. It was tall and slender, with multiple limbs and a head that seemed to shimmer and change shape. When it spoke, the sound seemed to come from everywhere at once, resonating in their minds rather than their ears. "Greetings, explorers," the being said, its voice somehow both alien and familiar. "We have awaited your arrival for many cycles. We are the Zalfar, and we welcome you to our world." The colony erupted into a frenzy of excitement and fear. First contact had been made, and nothing would ever be the same. Captain Chen, her heart pounding but her voice steady, stepped forward to address the holographic alien. "On behalf of humanity, we greet you in peace," she said, hoping her words would translate accurately. "We come seeking knowledge and friendship." The Zalfar's form rippled, a gesture that Chen interpreted as approval. "Your journey has been long, and your arrival heralds a new era for both our peoples. We have much to share with you, as we hope you have much to share with us." Over the following days, a careful dance of diplomacy and cultural exchange began. The Zalithar, it turned out, were not native to Nova Terra. They had arrived millennia ago, fleeing a dying star system. They had made this planet their home, living in harmony with its ecosystem and watching the stars for signs of other intelligent life. Dr. Rodriguez was in his element, spending hours in conversation with the Zalithar scientists, learning about their advanced biotechnology and sharing humanity's own scientific achievements. Captain Chen focused on establishing diplomatic protocols and ensuring the safety of both species as they learned to coexist. The colony buzzed with a new energy. The discovery of the Zalithar had given them a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer alone in the universe, and the possibilities seemed endless. But as the initial excitement began to fade, new challenges arose. Cultural misunderstandings led to minor conflicts, and some colonists expressed fear and mistrust of their alien neighbors. Captain Chen worked tirelessly to maintain peace, reminding everyone of the incredible opportunity they had been given. As the first year on Nova Terra drew to a close, humanity stood on the brink of a new chapter in its history. They had come seeking a new home among the stars, and they had found not only a planet, but an entire civilization waiting to greet them. The future was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But as Captain Chen looked out over the colony, watching humans and Zalithar working side by side, she felt a surge of hope. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, two species united by their shared curiosity and their drive to explore the unknown. Little did they know that their newfound alliance would soon be tested in ways they could never have imagined, as forces beyond their control set in motion events that would shake the foundations of both their worlds. The misunderstanding. As the human colony and the Zalithar settled into a rhythm of coexistence, the initial wonder of first contact began to give way to the complexities of day-to-day interactions. Dr. Ethan Rodriguez led a team of human scientists working alongside their Zalithar counterparts in a joint research facility on the outskirts of the colony. Their primary focus was on studying the unique energy source that powered Zalithar technology, a crystalline substance they called stellanite. Dr. Amelia Foster, a brilliant young physicist, had become particularly fascinated with stellanite. She spent long hours in the lab, often working late into the night, trying to unlock its secrets. Her Zalithar research partner, Xylo, shared her enthusiasm, and together they made significant progress in understanding the crystal's properties. One evening, as Amelia was running a series of tests on a stellanite sample, she noticed an unusual energy spike. Excited by the potential breakthrough, she called Xylo over to observe. "Look at this, Xylo," Amelia exclaimed, pointing to the readouts on her screen. "If we can replicate this reaction, we might be able to harness stellanite's energy more efficiently than ever before." Xylo's form shimmered with what Amelia had come to recognize as concern. "Amelia, we must be cautious. Stellanite is more than just an energy source to us. It has spiritual significance." But Amelia, caught up in the excitement of discovery, pressed on. She adjusted the parameters of her experiment, pushing the stellanite sample to its limits. The crystal began to glow brighter and brighter, emitting a high-pitched whine that filled the lab. "Amelia, stop!" Xylo cried out, their form rippling with alarm. "You're destabilizing the crystal's structure." Before Amelia could react, the stellanite sample exploded in a burst of blinding light and searing heat. The shockwave knocked both researchers off their feet, shattering equipment and sending shards of crystal flying through the air. When the dust settled, Amelia found herself lying on the floor, her ears ringing and her vision blurred. She could make out Xylo's shimmering form nearby, seemingly unharmed. But as she tried to stand, a sharp pain in her side made her gasp. Looking down, she saw a large shard of stellanite embedded in her abdomen. "Xylo," she whispered, her voice weak. "I'm sorry, I should have listened." Those were her last words before she lost consciousness. The news of Dr. Foster's accident spread quickly through the colony and the Zalthar community. Captain Sarah Chen rushed to the research facility, her heart heavy with the knowledge that this incident could have severe repercussions for human-Zalthar relations. As she arrived at the scene, she found Dr. Rodriguez already there, his face pale with shock and grief. "She's gone, Sarah," he said, his voice breaking. "Amelia's dead." Captain Chen closed her eyes, taking a moment to steady herself before addressing the situation. She turned to the Zalthar representatives who had gathered, their forms shimmering with a mix of sorrow and agitation. "On behalf of the human colony, I express our deepest regrets for this tragic accident," Chen began. "Dr. Foster's actions were not authorized, and But she was cut off by the arrival of Zalthar Elder Vaughn, whose imposing form seemed to fill the room. "This was no mere accident," Vaughn's voice resonated, tinged with anger. "Your scientist desecrated our most sacred substance, ignoring the warnings of her Zalthar colleague. This is a grave offense against our people and our beliefs." Captain Chen tried to maintain her composure, sensing the delicate balance of peace slipping away. "Elder Vaughn, I assure you that Dr. Foster meant no disrespect. She was a scientist, driven by curiosity." "Curiosity?" Vaughn interrupted. "Is that what you call it when you meddle with forces you do not understand? When you ignore the counsel of those who have lived with Stellanite for millennia?" The tension in the room was palpable. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, his grief giving way to defensiveness. "We came here in peace, to learn and to share knowledge. Amelia gave her life in pursuit of that goal. Surely you can understand." "Understand." Vaughn's form rippled violently. "We understand all too well. We welcomed you to our world, shared our knowledge, and this is how you repay us. By treating our most sacred resource as a mere curiosity to be exploited." Captain Chen could see the situation spiraling out of control. She tried once more to bridge the growing divide. "Elder Vaughn, please. Let us mourn our losses together and find a way forward. Surely we can." But Vaughn was beyond reasoning. "Enough. Your people have shown their true nature. You are not ready for the knowledge we possess. For the safety of our world and our people, we must ask you to leave Novaterra." A sharp silence fell over the room. Captain Chen felt as if the ground had dropped out from beneath her feet. Everything they had worked for, the promise of a new future for humanity, was crumbling before her eyes. "Elder Vaughn," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. "I implore you to reconsider. This incident, tragic as it is, does not define who we are as a people. We can learn from this, grow stronger together." But Vaughn was unmoved. "Our decision is final. You have one lunar cycle to prepare for departure. After that, any humans remaining on Novaterra will be considered hostile invaders." With those words, Vaughn and the other Zalthar representatives shimmered out of existence, leaving the humans alone with their shock and grief. Captain Chen turned to Dr. Rodriguez, seeing her own fear and uncertainty reflected in his eyes. "Ethan," she said softly, "we need to prepare the colony for evacuation. But I'm not giving up. There has to be a way to fix this." As they left the research facility, the weight of their new reality settled upon them. The dream of a peaceful coexistence with an alien species had shattered, leaving behind a nightmare of misunderstanding and potential conflict. Back at the colony, Captain Chen called an emergency meeting of her senior staff. As she explained the situation, she could see the disbelief and fear spreading across their faces. "But where will we go?" asked Maria Vasquez, the geologist who had first discovered the Zalthar artifact. "We can't just abandon everything we've built here." Chen shook her head. "I don't intend to. We're going to fight this, diplomatically if we can, but we need to be prepared for all possibilities." As the meeting adjourned, Chen sent out a priority message to Earth, explaining the situation and requesting guidance. She knew it would take weeks for a response to arrive, time they might not have. In the days that followed, tensions in the colony rose. Some colonists demanded immediate retaliation against the Zalthar, while others began packing up, ready to abandon their new home at a moment's notice. Chen worked tirelessly, trying to maintain order and continue diplomatic efforts with the Zalfa, but each attempt at communication was met with silence or hostility. As the deadline for their departure drew nearer, Chen realized they might have no choice but to leave, but the thought of abandoning Novaterra, of admitting defeat in humanity's greatest adventure, was almost too much to bear. Little did they know, back on Earth, the response to their distress call was already in motion. A fleet was being assembled, its mission not just to evacuate the colony, but to secure humanity's foothold on Novaterra by any means necessary. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate of two species and the future of interstellar relations. As Captain Chen looked out over the colony she had helped build, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger conflict. Escalation. The tension on Novaterra grew with each passing day. As the deadline for the colony's forced evacuation approached, Captain Sarah Chen found herself caught between her duty to protect her people and her desire to salvage the relationship with the Zalfa. She had not given up hope for a peaceful resolution, but the silence from the alien species was deafening. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the news of the Novaterra crisis had sparked a firestorm of debate and action. The United Earth government convened an emergency session to address the situation. Admiral Marcus Blackwood, a decorated veteran of the Mars conflicts and a staunch advocate for human expansion, stood before the assembly. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice resonating through the chamber, "we stand at a crossroads. Our first interstellar colony, the culmination of centuries of scientific advancement and human perseverance, is under threat. We will not, allow an alien species to dictate the terms of our existence in this universe." His words were met with a mix of approval and concern. Some council members argued for caution, emphasizing the importance of diplomatic solutions. Others rallied behind Blackwood's more aggressive stance. In the end, the decision was made. Earth would not abandon Novaterra. A fleet would be dispatched, officially for the protection and potential evacuation of the colonists, but with the implicit understanding that they would secure humanity's claim to the planet by any means necessary. As preparations for the fleet's departure began, Dr. Elara Vance, a renowned xenanthropologist, approached Admiral Blackwood with concerns. "Admiral," she said, her voice steady but her eyes betraying her worry, "I urge you to reconsider this course of action. We know so little about the Zalfa. This show of force could lead to disastrous consequences." Blackwood's expression remained impassive. "Dr. Vance, I appreciate your concern, but the decision has been made. We cannot appear weak in our first encounter with an alien civilization. The future of humanity depends on our ability to stand our ground." As the Earth fleet prepared for departure, a message was transmitted to Novaterra, informing Captain Chen of the impending arrival. The news spread quickly through the colony, eliciting a mix of relief and apprehension. Dr. Rodriguez found Chen in her office, poring over reports and communication logs. "Sarah," he said, his voice tight with worry, "this fleet, it's not just for evacuation, is it?" Chen looked up, the weight of her responsibility evident in her eyes. "No, Ethan, I don't think it is. Earth isn't ready to give up on Novaterra. But this could make things so much worse." As they discussed the implications of Earth's decision, an alert sounded. A Zolfar transmission was coming through, the first in weeks. The holographic form of Elder Vaughn materialized before them, its shimmering presence filling the room with an otherworldly glow. "Captain Chen," the alien's voice resonated, "we have detected a large number of ships approaching Novaterra. Explain." Chen took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "Elder Vaughn, these ships are from Earth. They've been sent to assist with our situation." Vaughn's form rippled with what Chen had come to recognize as agitation. "Assist? You mean to intimidate us, to force your will upon our world? This is an act of aggression, Captain. We warned you of the consequences of remaining on Novaterra." "Please," Chen implored, "this doesn't have to lead to conflict. We can still find a peaceful resolution. Let us meet, talk face to face. Surely we can find common ground. But Vaughn was unmoved. You have made your choice, Captain. Now we must make ours. The Zalthar will defend our home, our sacred sites, our very way of life. If your ships enter our space, we will have no choice but to view it as an act of war. With that, the transmission ended, leaving Chen and Rodriguez in stunned silence. Over the next few days, the colony was a flurry of activity. Chen ordered defensive preparations, all the while trying to maintain open lines of communication with the Zalthar. Dr. Rodriguez and his team worked frantically to gather all the data they could on Zalthar technology and biology, information that could prove crucial in the event of a conflict. As the Earth fleet entered the Nova Terra system, tension reached a fever pitch. Admiral Blackwood's flagship, the UES Intrepid, established contact with the colony. Captain Chen, Blackwood's stern visage filled the viewscreen. We're approaching Nova Terra. What's the situation on the ground? Chen gave a succinct report, emphasizing the need for caution. Admiral, the Zalthar view your arrival as an act of aggression. Any show of force could spark a conflict we're not prepared for. Blackwood's expression hardened. Understood, Captain, but let me be clear. We will not be intimidated. Humanity has as much right to Nova Terra as any other species. We'll proceed with caution, but we will proceed. As the fleet moved into orbit around Nova Terra, the Zalthar response was swift. A massive energy barrier shimmered into existence around the planet, cutting off the colony from the approaching ships. Alarms blared throughout the colony as power fluctuations rippled through their systems. Dr. Rodriguez burst into Chen's office, his face pale. Sarah, the Zalthar barrier, it's not just defensive, it's draining our power. If we can't find a way to neutralize it, we'll be dead in the water within days. Chen's mind raced with the implications. They were trapped between the approaching Earth fleet and the increasingly hostile Zalthar, with their resources dwindling by the hour. As she prepared to contact both Admiral Blackwood and Elder Vaughn in a last-ditch effort for peace, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of a conflict that could change the course of human history. The once promising future of human-alien cooperation now hung by a thread, with the fate of Nova Terra, and perhaps the future of interstellar relations hanging in the balance. The next few hours would determine whether humanity's first encounter with an alien civilization would end in peace or in war. The battle begins. The tension in Nova Terra's atmosphere was palpable as Captain Sarah Chen stood in the colony's command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing both the Earth fleet in orbit and the shimmering Zalthar energy barrier enveloping the planet. She knew that her next actions could either prevent or ignite an interstellar war. Open a channel to both Admiral Blackwood and Elder Vaughn, Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. It's time we all talked. As the communications were established, the stern face of Admiral Blackwood and the shimmering form of Elder Vaughn appeared on separate screens. Chen took a deep breath before addressing them both. Gentlemen, we stand on the brink of a conflict that could have catastrophic consequences for all of us. I implore you both to consider the cost of war and the potential for peaceful coexistence. Admiral Blackwood spoke first, his voice firm. Captain Chen, our position is clear. We will not abandon Nova Terra or our people. The Zalthar must understand that humanity is here to stay. Elder Vaughn's form rippled with what Chen had come to recognize as indignation. Your very presence here is an invasion. We have lived in harmony with this world for millennia. We will not allow you to desecrate it with your reckless exploitation. As the two leaders argued, Dr. Rodriguez burst into the command center, his eyes wide with excitement and fear. Captain, I've made a discovery about the energy barrier. It's not just defensive, it's tapped into the planet's core. If it remains active for too long, it could destabilize Nova Terra's entire ecosystem. Chen's heart sank as she realized the dire implications. She turned back to the screens. Elder Vaughn, is this true? Are you risking the destruction of your own world to keep us out? Vaughn's form shimmered, a sign of hesitation. We were unaware of this consequence. Our scientists assured us the barrier was safe. Then let us work together, Chen pleaded. Our scientists, your scientists, surely together we can find a solution that doesn't put Nova Terra at risk. For a moment, it seemed as if reason might prevail, but suddenly, alarms blared throughout the command center. One of Chen's officers called out, "Captain, we're detecting weapons fire in orbit." On the screens, they could see flashes of light as Earth ships exchanged fire with previously hidden Zalthar defensive platforms. The battle for Nova Terra had begun. "What have you done?" Chen demanded, looking from Blackwood to Vaughn. "We didn't fire first," Blackwood insisted. "Those platforms attacked without warning." "Lies." Vaughn's form pulsed angrily. "Your ships breached the agreed-upon perimeter. We had no choice but to defend ourselves." As accusations flew back and forth, Chen realized that the situation had spiraled beyond her control. She turned to her team. "We need to focus on protecting the colony and finding a way to neutralize that barrier before it tears the planet apart." Dr. Rodriguez nodded grimly. "I'll gather our best minds. We'll find a way, Sarah." As the battle raged in orbit, the colony sprang into action. Defense systems were activated, and civilians were moved to secure bunkers. Chen coordinated with the Earth fleet, trying to minimize collateral damage to the planet's surface. The Zalthar, their advanced technology now fully unleashed, proved to be formidable opponents. Their ships seemed to phase in and out of reality, making them difficult targets for Earth's weapons. But humanity's ingenuity shone through as Earth pilots quickly adapted their tactics, using predictive algorithms to target where the Zalthar ships would reappear. On the ground, Dr. Rodriguez and his team worked feverishly to understand and counteract the energy barrier. They discovered that the barrier's connection to the planet's core was creating dangerous gravitational fluctuations. "If we don't shut it down soon," Rodriguez reported, "we could be looking at massive tectonic instability. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, the whole planet could become uninhabitable." Chen relayed this information to both Blackwood and Vaughn, hoping the threat to Nova Terra itself would bring them to their senses. But the battle had taken on a life of its own, with neither side willing to back down. As the conflict intensified, an unexpected ally emerged. Silo, the Zalthar scientist who had worked alongside the late Dr. Foster, managed to make contact with the colony. Captain Chen, Silo's shimmering form appeared in the command center. "I and a group of like-minded Zalthar wish to help. We believe this conflict is based on misunderstanding and fear. We want to work with you to end it." Chen felt a glimmer of hope. "Thank you, Silo. We need all the help we can get. Can you assist Dr. Rodriguez in finding a way to safely deactivate the barrier?" Silo agreed, and soon a clandestine collaboration between human and Zalthar scientists was underway. As they worked, Chen continued to coordinate the colony's defenses and maintain communication with the Earth fleet. The battle above Nova Terra reached a fever pitch. Earth ships, despite taking heavy losses, had managed to destroy several of the Zalthar defense platforms. But the Zalthar retaliated by activating powerful ground-based weapons that threatened to turn the tide once again. Just as it seemed the conflict would result in mutual destruction, Dr. Rodriguez and Tylo made a breakthrough. They had found a way to gradually deactivate the barrier without causing catastrophic damage to the planet. "But there's a catch," Rodriguez explained. "Someone needs to manually activate the shutdown sequence from the main Zalthar control center. It's too risky to do remotely." Chen knew what she had to do. "I'll go," she said, her voice resolute. "This madness has to end, and it has to end now." As Chen prepared for her dangerous mission, the battle for Nova Terra hung in the balance. The actions of one human captain, venturing into the heart of alien territory, would determine the fate of two species and the future of interstellar relations. The next few hours would either see the dawn of a new era of cooperation or the beginning of an interstellar war that could consume both Earth and Nova Terra. Revelations and sacrifices. Captain Sarah Chen, accompanied by Dr. Rodriguez and Dilo, made her way through the chaotic streets of the colony towards the Zalthar Control Center. The ground shook beneath their feet as the battle raged overhead, and the air was filled with the acrid smell of smoke and ozone. "We're running out of time," Rodriguez shouted over the din of explosions. "The planet's core is becoming increasingly unstable. If we don't deactivate that barrier soon, we'll all go up in flames, humans and Zalthar alike." As they approached the control center, they were met by a group of Zalthar guards, their forms shimmering with hostility. Silo stepped forward, its form rippling with what Chen had come to recognize as determination. "Brothers," Silo's voice resonated, "we must end this conflict. These humans are here to help save our world, your world. Let us pass." For a tense moment, it seemed the guards would attack, but then, slowly they parted, allowing the unlikely trio to enter the control center. Inside, they found Elder Vaughn, surrounded by Zalthar technicians frantically working at glowing consoles. Vaughn's form pulsed with surprise and anger at their intrusion. "What is the meaning of this?" Vaughn demanded. "Silo, you betray your own kind." "No, Elder," Silo replied calmly. "I seek to save our kind. The barrier is destroying Nova Terra. We must deactivate it immediately." Chen stepped forward, her eyes locked on Vaughn. "Elder, please. We found a way to safely shut down the barrier, but we need your help. This war benefits no one. It's time to end it." Vaughn's form shimmered with conflicting emotions. "And why should we trust you? Your kind has already shown its true nature: destructive, greedy, untrustworthy." It was then that Dr. Rodriguez made a startling revelation. "Elder Vaughn, we've discovered something in our research. The energy spike that killed Dr. Foster, it wasn't just an accident. It was a deliberate sabotage." The room fell silent, all eyes turning to Rodriguez. He continued, "We found evidence of tampering in the lab equipment. Someone wanted the experiment to fail catastrophically." Vaughn's form rippled with shock. Impossible. No Zalthar would endanger the sacred stellanite. "Not a Zalathar," Chen said softly, the pieces finally falling into place. "But someone who wanted to drive a wedge between our species. Someone who benefits from conflict." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the control center. One of the technicians called out, "Elder, we're detecting a new ship entering the system. It's not one of ours or the humans." A holographic display flickered to life, showing a massive vessel unlike anything they had seen before. Its design was angular and predatory, bristling with weapons. "By the stars," Xylo gasped. "It's them, the Vorax." Chen turned to Xylo, confusion etched on her face. "The Vorax? Who are they?" Vaughn's form seemed to shrink, his voice heavy with ancient sorrow. "They are the reason we fled our home system millennia ago. A warlike species that lives to conquer and destroy. We hoped they had forgotten us." The realization hit Chen like a physical blow. They've been manipulating us all along, pushing our species into conflict, weakening us, so they could swoop in and conquer a planet already torn apart by war. Rodriguez finished, his voice grim. The Vorax ship opened fire, its advanced weapons tearing through both human and Zalthar defenses with terrifying ease. The control center shook violently, consoles exploding in showers of sparks. "Elder Vaughn," Chen pleaded, "we need to deactivate the barrier now. It's our only chance to unite our forces and defend Nova Terra." Vaughn hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "You are right, Captain. Philo, assist them. I will contact our fleet and your Admiral Blackwood. We must stand together if we are to survive." As Silo and Rodriguez worked frantically to initiate the barrier shutdown sequence, Chen established communication with Admiral Blackwood. "Admiral," she said, her voice urgent, "we have a new situation. A hostile alien force, the Orcs, have entered the system. They've been manipulating us from the start. We need to cease fire against the Zalthar immediately and coordinate our defenses. Blackwood's face showed shock, then grim determination. Understood, Captain. We'll regroup and engage this new threat. But without that barrier down, we're fighting with one arm tied behind our back. Working on it, sir, Chen assured him. As Silo and Rodriguez neared completion of the shutdown sequence, the control center rocked with another violent explosion. Part of the ceiling collapsed, debris raining down on them. It's done. Rodriguez called out triumphantly, even as he clutched a bleeding gash on his forehead. The barrier should start dissipating now. But their victory was short-lived. Another blast rocked the building, and Chen watched in horror as a support beam came crashing down towards Silo and Rodriguez. Without hesitation, Chen lunged forward, pushing them both out of the way. The last thing she saw was their shocked faces as the beam struck her instead, pinning her to the ground. As darkness began to close in around her, Chen could hear the frantic voices of Rodriguez and Dilo. She managed a small smile, knowing that her sacrifice might have just given both their species a fighting chance. Her last conscious thought was a hope that humans and Zalthar would put aside their differences and stand united against the true threat. As she slipped into unconsciousness, the fate of Novaterra, Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy hung in the balance. The battle against the Orcs was about to begin, and it would take every ounce of courage, ingenuity, and cooperation that both species could muster to survive. Resolution and new beginnings. As Captain Sarah Chen lay unconscious beneath the rubble, the united forces of humanity and the Zalthar faced their greatest challenge. The Orcs ship loomed over Novaterra, its weapons raining destruction upon the planet and the combined fleet. Admiral Blackwood, now in direct communication with Elder Vaughn, coordinated a desperate defense. Human ingenuity and adaptability combined with Zalthar advanced technology to create a formidable, if hastily assembled, fighting force. Elder Vaughn, Blackwood's voice crackled over the comm. Our ships are faster, but your facing technology could give us an edge, if we could implement it on some of our vessels. Vaughn's form shimmered with what might have been a nod. Agreed, Admiral. I'm transmitting the specifications now. But be warned, it will take significant power. As the space battle raged, Dr. Rodriguez and Silo worked frantically to free Chen from the debris. The control center shuddered with each impact from Orcs' weapons. Captain, stay with us, Rodriguez pleaded as they finally managed to lift the beam. Chen's eyes fluttered open, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The battle, she managed to whisper. Silo's form rippled with concern. It's not going well. The Orcs' weapons are unlike anything we've encountered. They seem to adapt to our defenses almost instantly. Chen's mind raced, even as pain threatened to overwhelm her. Adapt, that's it. She struggled to sit up, ignoring the protestations of her battered body. The stellanite, it adapts, doesn't it? That's why it's so powerful. Rodriguez's eyes widened with realization. Of course, if we could harness that adaptive property, integrate it into our weapon systems, we could create a weapon the Orcs can't adapt to. Silo finished, its form pulsing with excitement. Chen nodded weakly. Do it. I'll coordinate with the fleet. As Rodriguez and Silo rushed to implement their desperate plan, Chen established communication with Blackwood and Vaughn. Despite her injuries, her voice carried the weight of command. Admiral, Elder, we have a plan. But we'll need every scrap of stellanite we can get our hands on, and we'll need to coordinate perfectly. The next hours were a blur of frantic activity. As the combined fleet held off the Orcs' assault, teams of humans and Zalthar worked together to collect stellanite and integrate it into their weapon systems. The once contentious energy source now represented their last, best hope for survival. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. The newly modified weapons were ready but untested. Chen, now propped up in a makeshift command chair, gave the order. All ships fire at will. The effect was immediate and stunning. Beams of shifting, multicolored energy lanced out from the Allied ships, striking the Vorac's vessel. Where before their adaptive shields had shrugged off attacks, now they flickered and failed under the constantly changing assault. The Vorac's, caught off guard by this sudden shift in the battle, began to retreat, but Blackwood and Vaughn were not about to let them escape to threaten other worlds. "Push the attack," Blackwood ordered. "Don't let them leave the system." The combined fleet surged forward, their stellarite-powered weapons tearing through the Vorac's defenses. In a final, desperate move, the Vorac's ship attempted to round Nova Terra itself, hoping to destroy their enemies along with themselves. But they had underestimated the newfound unity of humans and Zalthar. In perfect coordination, the Allied fleet focused their fire on the Vorac's engine core. The massive ship exploded in a blinding flash, pieces of it burning up in Nova Terra's atmosphere like a deadly meteor shower. As the light faded and the realization of victory set in, a cheer went up from every ship and settlement. Humans and Zalthar alike celebrated their shared triumph. In the aftermath of the battle, as the wounded were tended to and the damage assessed, Chen found herself in a meeting with Blackwood, Vaughn, Rodriguez, and Xylo. Despite her injuries, she insisted on being present for this crucial moment. "We've won the battle," Chen said, her voice weak but determined. "But now comes the real challenge, building a lasting peace." Vaughn's form shimmered with what Chen now recognized as agreement. "You are right, Captain. Our misunderstandings nearly doomed us all. We cannot let that happen again." Blackwood nodded solemnly. "I propose a joint council. Humans and Zalthar working together to govern Nova Terra and coordinate our species' interactions." "And a combined scientific initiative," Rodriguez added. "There's so much we can learn from each other." The discussions continued long into the night, laying the groundwork for a new era of cooperation. The tragedy of Dr. Foster's death and the manipulation by the Vorac's had shown both species the danger of fear and mistrust. Now, they were determined to build something better. In the months that followed, Nova Terra was transformed. The colony grew, with humans and Zalthar living side by side. Joint research projects flourished, leading to breakthroughs in medicine, energy production, and space travel. Captain Sarah Chen, after recovering from her injuries, was appointed as the head of the new Joint Defense Force, tasked with protecting Nova Terra and exploring the galaxy for other potential threats or allies. As Chen stood on a balcony overlooking the sprawling city, now a harmonious blend of human and Zalthar architecture, she felt a sense of pride and hope. The road had been difficult, marked by tragedy and near disaster, but they had emerged stronger for it. Xylo approached, its form shimmering in the sunset. "Quite a view, isn't it, Captain?" Chen nodded, smiling. "It is. And to think, we almost lost all of this." "But we didn't." Xylo's voice resonated with optimism. "Instead, we found something greater than either of us could have achieved alone." As they stood there, watching the twin moons of Nova Terra rise, Chen knew that this was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, new threats to face, and wonders to discover. But whatever the future held, they would face it together, humans and Zalthar, united in their shared dream of a better tomorrow. The story of Nova Terra would be told for generations to come, a testament to the power of understanding, cooperation, and the indomitable spirit of two species who turned conflict into harmony. And as the stars twinkled into view, they seemed to shine with the promise of endless possibilities. The cosmic frontier. 5 years had passed since the Battle of Nova Terra, and the joint human-Zalthar colony had flourished beyond anyone's wildest dreams. The once contentious planet had become a shining beacon of interspecies cooperation, drawing curious visitors and eager immigrants from both Earth and distant Zalthar worlds. Captain Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood on the bridge of the U.S. Harmony, the first starship built collaboratively by humans and Zalthar. The sleek vessel represented the pinnacle of both species' technologies, powered by refined stellanite and equipped with phase-shift capabilities that allowed it to slip between dimensions. Admiral, her second-in-command, a young Zalthar named Zix, approached. "We're receiving a transmission from Nova Terra. It's Dr. Rodriguez." Chen nodded, a smile tugging at her lips. "Put him through." The holographic image of Ethan Rodriguez, now silver-haired but still bright-eyed, flickered to life. "Sarah, how's our flagship performing?" "Like a dream, Ethan," Chen replied. "Your team outdid themselves. How are things back home?" Rodriguez's expression turned serious. "That's actually why I'm calling. Our long-range sensors have picked up something unusual. We think it might be a signal from another civilization." Chen felt a familiar mix of excitement and apprehension. "Another civilization, are you sure?" "As sure as we can be," Rodriguez nodded. "It's coming from a system about 50 light-years from Nova Terra. The signal doesn't match any known human or Zalthar patterns. We think it might be a distress call." Chen's mind raced with the implications. Another alien species, potentially in trouble. The echoes of their own tumultuous first contact still resonated. "Understood," she said, her voice steady. "Send us the coordinates. We'll investigate." As the transmission ended, Chen turned to her crew, a mix of humans and Zalthar, all working in perfect harmony. "All right, people. Looks like we've got our first real mission. Set a course for these coordinates." The journey took several days, even with the Harmony's advanced propulsion systems. Chen used the time to prepare her crew, emphasizing the importance of caution and open-mindedness. As they approached the source of the signal, the ship's sensors came alive with activity. "Admiral," Zix called out, "we're detecting a massive structure in orbit around the third planet of this system. It appears to be a space station of some kind." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a breathtaking sight. A colossal structure hung in space, its design unlike anything they had ever seen. It seemed to be composed of interconnected rings, each spinning at different speeds. But parts of it were dark, and debris floated around it. "Life signs?" Chen asked, her voice hushed with awe. "Faint, but present," Zix confirmed. "The station appears to be suffering from severe damage. Power fluctuations, hull breaches. It's a miracle anyone's still alive in there." Chen made her decision. "Prepare a rescue team. We're going in." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Chen led a mixed team of humans and Zalthar onto the alien station, their environmental suits allowing them to navigate the damaged sections. What they found both amazed and horrified them. The station was a marvel of engineering, with technology that surpassed even the combined knowledge of humans and Zalthar. But it was clear that a catastrophe had occurred. Bodies of alien beings, vaguely insectoid in appearance, floated in zero-gravity corridors. In the central hub of the station, they found survivors. The aliens, upon seeing the rescue team, reacted with a mix of fear and hope. Chen approached slowly, her hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "We're here to help," she said, knowing her words wouldn't be understood, but hoping her tone would convey her intentions. One of the aliens stepped forward, activating a device on its wrist. A holographic interface sprang to life, rapidly cycling through different languages and symbols. Chen's eyes widened as she recognized some of the patterns. "Dr. Rodriguez was right," she murmured. "This is a distress call. They've been broadcasting how to communicate with them." After several tense minutes, they managed to establish a basic form of communication. The aliens called themselves the Extraterrestrial, and their station was a repository of knowledge, a library of the cosmos. They had been attacked by a species known as the Shroud, beings of dark energy who viewed the spread of knowledge as a threat to their existence. The Extraterrestrial had managed to drive them off, but at great cost. As Chen coordinated the rescue efforts, bringing the surviving Extraterrestrial aboard the Harmony and beginning repairs on their station, she couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. Once again, humanity and the Zalthar found themselves at a crossroads, faced with a new alien species in need of help. But this time, they were prepared. This time, they approached the situation not with fear or suspicion, but with open minds and willing hearts. As the Harmony sent a message back to Nova Terra, requesting additional support and opening diplomatic channels per the Engzathal, Chen realized that this was why they had ventured into space, not just to explore, but to connect, to help, to grow. The universe, it seemed, was vaster and more wondrous than they had ever imagined, and as the first tentative bonds of friendship formed between humans, Zalthar, and Engzathal, Chen knew that their greatest adventures were still to come. The cosmic frontier stretched out before them, full of challenges and marvels alike. But together, united in their diversity, they were ready to face whatever the universe had in store. As the Harmony's engines hummed to life, preparing to escort the damaged Engzathal station to Nova Terra for repairs, Chen looked out at the star-studded expanse. The future was uncertain, but it was bright with possibility. And that, she thought with a smile, was exactly as it should be. The shroud rises. As the U.S. Harmony escorted the damaged Engzathal station towards Nova Terra, Admiral Sarah Chen couldn't shake the feeling that their troubles were far from over. The shroud, the mysterious dark energy beings that had attacked the Engzathal, loomed in her thoughts like a gathering storm. Her concerns proved prescient when, just days from reaching Nova Terra, the ship's sensors blared to life. "Admiral," Zix called out, their forms shimmering with alarm. Multiple anomalies detected. They matched the Engzathal's descriptions of shroud vessels. Chen's jaw set with determination. Battle stations. Inform Nova Terra of our situation and request immediate backup. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a chilling sight. Inky black ships, more void than substance, emerged from what appeared to be tears in the very fabric of space-time. They moved with an otherworldly grace, defying the laws of physics as the crew understood them. "The Engzathal station is broadcasting a message," one of the human officers reported. They're begging the shroud to leave them alone." Chen's mind raced. They were outgunned and facing an enemy they barely understood. But they had one advantage, the combined ingenuity of 3 species. "Patch me through to Dr. Rodriguez and the Engzathal scientists," Chen ordered. "We need solutions, and we need them now." As the Harmony engaged in a deadly dance with the shroud ships, narrowly avoiding their strange, reality-warping weapons, the brightest minds of 3 civilizations worked feverishly to find a weakness in their enigmatic foe. It was Thilo, the Zalthar scientist, who made the breakthrough. The shroud, they're not just beings of dark energy, their voice crackled over the comm. "They're from another dimension, bleeding into ours. That's why they fear knowledge. The more we understand about the universe, the harder it is for them to maintain their presence here." "So how do we stop them?" Chen demanded, steadying herself as the ship rocked from a near miss. "We overload them with information," Dr. Rodriguez chimed in, excitement clear in his voice despite the dire situation. "If we can broadcast a concentrated burst of data, everything we know about physics, mathematics, the nature of our universe, it might just force them back to their dimension." It was a desperate plan, but it was all they had. As the Harmony's shields began to fail under the relentless shroud assault, Chen gave the order. "Do it. Broadcast on all frequencies." The combined knowledge of humans, Zalthar, and Engzathal, the sum total of their understanding of the cosmos, poured out from the ship and the station in a massive data stream. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, incredibly, the shroud ships began to waver. Their inky forms became less substantial, riddled with gaps as if reality itself was reasserting its dominance. Unearthly shrieks filled the comm channels as the shroud vessels began to disintegrate. "It's working," Zix exclaimed. "They're being forced back to their own dimension." But their victory was short-lived. As the last shroud ship faded from view, a final, massive surge of dark energy pulsed outward. The Harmony's systems overloaded, plunging the ship into darkness. The extraterrestrial station, already damaged, began to break apart under the strain. As emergency power flickered on, Chen saw the cost of their desperate gambit. The Harmony was adrift, its stellarite core destabilized. The extraterrestrial station was in pieces, with escape pods jettisoning in all directions. "Begin rescue operations immediately," Chen ordered, her voice hoarse. "And send out a distress call to Nova Terra. We've won the battle, but we're a long way from home." As the battered crew of the Harmony worked to save as many extraterrestrial as they could and effect repairs, Chen reflected on the true nature of their mission. They had set out to explore, to connect with new civilizations. Instead, they found themselves on the front lines of a war they barely understood, against an enemy that challenged their very conception of reality. But they had also discovered the true power of unity. 3 species, once strangers, had stood together against an unimaginable threat and prevailed. As the first response ships from Nova Terra appeared on the horizon, Chen allowed herself a small smile. They had a long journey ahead, repairing their ship, helping the extraterrestrial rebuild, and preparing for the possibility of the Shroud's return. But they would face these challenges together, their alliance stronger than ever. The universe, it seemed, had many more secrets to reveal, and humanity, along with their Zalfar and extraterrestrial allies, would be there to uncover them, one star at a time. A new dawn. In the months following the Shroud encounter, Nova Terra became a hub of frenetic activity. The Harmony limped back to port, its crew hailed as heroes. The surviving extraterrestrial, grateful for their rescue, shared their vast repository of knowledge, ushering in an unprecedented era of scientific and technological advancement. Admiral Sara Chen stood before the newly formed Galactic Council, a body comprising representatives from Earth, the Zalfar worlds, and the remaining extraterrestrial. The chamber buzzed with anticipation as Chen prepared to deliver her report. "Distinguished members of the council," Chen began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "The encounter with the Shroud has made one thing clear. We are not alone in this universe, and not all that exists out there is benevolent. But it has also shown us the incredible power of unity and shared knowledge." She paused, looking at each council member in turn. "I propose the formation of a joint fleet, crewed by members of all our species. A force dedicated not just to defense, but to exploration, to pushing back the boundaries of the unknown." The council chambers erupted in discussion. It was an audacious proposal, one that would require unprecedented cooperation and trust between their species. But the memory of their victory of the Shroud was fresh, a testament to what they could achieve together. After hours of debate, the vote was cast. The proposal passed. The Galactic Exploration and Defense Fleet would become a reality. Over the next year, Chen oversaw the fleet's formation. New ships were built, incorporating the best technologies from all 3 species. The Harmony, fully repaired and upgraded, became the flagship of this new armada. Dr. Rodriguez led a team of multi-species scientists working to unlock the secrets of interdimensional travel based on what they'd learned from the Shroud. Silo focused on advancing their understanding of dark energy, hoping to develop new defenses against potential future incursions. The extraterrestrial, their numbers diminished but their spirit unbroken, began the construction of a new repository of knowledge. This time it would be planetside on Nova Terra, protected by the combined might of their alliance. As the fleet prepared for its maiden voyage, Chen found herself once again on the bridge of the Harmony. But this time, she was surrounded not just by humans and Zalfar, but by extraterrestrial as well. Each station was crewed by the individual best suited for the task, regardless of species. "Admiral," Zik said, their forms shimmering with excitement, "the fleet is ready for your command." Chen nodded, a sense of déjà vu washing over her. But this time, the feeling was tinged not with apprehension, but with hope. "Signal all ships," she ordered. "It's time to make history." As the fleet engaged their engines, preparing to venture into the unknown, Chen reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. From the first tentative steps on Nova Terra, through conflict and misunderstanding, to unity in the face of an cosmic threat, they had come so far. The view screen showed the vast expanse of space before them, teeming with unexplored stars and unseen wonders. But it also held dangers, the ever-present threat of the Shroud, and who knew what other challenges awaiting them in the cosmic dark. Yet Chen felt no fear, for she knew that whatever they faced, they would face it together. Human ingenuity, Zalva wisdom, and Enk's knowledge, united, they were a force unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. As the fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, Chen allowed herself a smile. This was not an ending, but a beginning. The start of a grand adventure that would span the stars and perhaps, one day, bridge the very dimensions themselves. "Let's see what's out there," Chen said, her voice filled with determination and wonder. And with that, the Galactic Exploration and Defense Fleet ventured forth into the cosmic unknown, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of 3 civilizations. Whatever the future held, be it new allies to meet, wonders to discover, or threats to face, they would meet it head-on together. The stars stretched before them, infinite in their promise and possibility. And as the Harmony led the way, its diverse crew working in perfect unison, it was clear that this alliance of species had taken its first bold step towards a destiny greater than any of them could have imagined alone. This was not just the dawn of a new era for their civilizations. It was the beginning of a new chapter in the very history of the galaxy itself. The end and a new beginning.